Hey folks, how you doing? Hopefully you can hear everything okay. Do let me know. This is a different setup than I normally use. I'm going to open a window and check that that's all working, because I have no idea. Just assuming stuff is coming through to you all. I did try to get OBS going and just given up out of frustration. I was just spending 45 minutes trying to get the stupid thing going. So there you go. So I'm just using the regular YouTube software, but I'm not using my phone this time. Used to use my phone and I was getting clicking noises and stuff. It was driving me mental. So this time I was like, right, I got to get a better setup. So that's why I was trying OBS, and I just could not get it to talk to each other. Oh. Seems to be coming through. Hopefully you all can see it. I don't know. Let me know in the chat if you can see everything and what it sounds like. Is there anything you want to know? Haven't warmed up today. Do let me know if you're hearing everything, because it's a different setup than I normally use. I'm redoing the studio this week. Actually, I'm gonna move everything around. It's a complete mess at the moment, but I'm planning over there. There'll be a couch and a little kind of setup, so it'll look a little bit more like there's actually something there. I put the LEDs up, as you can probably see, glowing up the top. There's another lot over that side that are not as bright, but they still work. Yeah, so I mentioned recently that I'm going to change up. I'm not going to do daily videos anymore. I just can't do it. It's too tough on me. Mostly because I do it all on my phone, and because I have to be able to do daily videos. I just don't have time to do it on the computer and the whole setup. And I found that editing for an hour on the phone like this, my hands are getting sore by the end of it. And my hands are the most important thing when it comes to music. So let me know in the chat. Can you hear this okay? Seriously, I don't know. I'm assuming because I'm hearing it here. But if you're not, got some interesting gigs this week. I've got I'm playing in the weekend at Gareth Morgan's Golf Club. For those not from New Zealand, Gareth is one of the most wealthy New Zealanders. He was one of those people that was in the beginning of Trade Me, which is like New Zealand's version of eBay. Yeah. Oh, great. Oh, thanks, Michael. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I love this guitar too. I've been playing this heaps actually lately. See, it's got loads of sustain, and I think, yeah, but I'm playing a solo set, so I'm actually tempted to take. I'll probably take this guitar actually. I'm playing it lots. What I'm finding with this guitar, I put a treble bleed on the volume pot, right? And what I've been finding is that if you turn it up full, yeah, you get more gain. But if you turn it down to about 6 or 7, it's roughly the same gain. But the crazy thing is, you kind of becomes more like a Strat, because essentially with a treble bleed, what's happening is you're turning down your treble's staying where it is for the most part, but you're turning down bass frequencies really, so it's getting thinner, more like turning a P90 to be more like a Strat. So on about 6 or 7, hey, Paul, how you doing, man? Oh, it's Paul says, evening, Nick. Good to see you. But it's Paul Bradshaw. There's a great YouTube channel. Go and check out his stuff. It says, evening, Nick. Good to see you on here. It's 10 p.m. here. Oh, excellent. Yeah, I was going to do this last night, but I ran out of time. Actually, my neighbor came over and we had a few beers and kind of hung out. I haven't seen him we're good friends. And I haven't seen him since last year. So I was like, man, and so he popped over. So by then it was sort of 10 o'clock, and I looked at the time differences for everyone. A lot of people in the UK and the US, which are probably my two biggest audiences. It was the middle of the night. I was like, why am I bothering doing it then? So that's why I thought I'd jump on this morning. It's now 10 a.m. in the morning here. Paul says, oh, you're not hearing the electric. Are you not hearing the electric sound? Should be hearing overdriven. If you're not, let me do this. I think I know what's up. What about now? Should be hearing guitar now. Can you hear guitar? Some of the, I spent a bunch of hours this morning on OBS trying to get the stupid thing to go. And a lot of these softwares, what they do is they sort of build it around channels 1 and 2 in your interface, and that's it. Of course, I've got a big interface here with 16 channels, 16 inputs, plus, some of them I'm using like inputs on the back, because then I can free up the XLRs in the front, all that kind of stuff. You can't see it, but it's over here. And so, of course, trying to get these things to sort of do that. And I was like, now I need to set up a mixer. And I was like, there you go. So Paul says, I've never gotten used to treble bleeds. Me neither. I never really got into them until recently, as I like the volume swells with the volume knobs getting too used to the high roll off. Yeah, totally. That's exactly what I do. I normally use it as more of an EQ, right? To turn down your volume to kind of take off the top end, especially on a Strat or a Tele. That's great. This guitar, though, this is a really dark guitar. It's a glue-in neck, so not like a Strat. It's a mahogany body with a maple cap, so really like a Les Paul. I mean, sure, it's got a maple neck, but even then, it's one of the darker guitars I've ever had. So it really needed low output pickups, which is what I did. And then what I found was, because P90s have that lower mid-range thing where they kind of go, So I found that just by putting a treble bleed in there, it's kind of more like a bass reduction rather than volume. And on this guitar, it actually works really well. And I kind of got the idea because that's what's happening in my DGT guitar. That's got a treble bleed, and so I thought, wow, I'll do. It came like that when I got that guitar. So I thought I'll do it in this guitar. When I swapped over the pickups, these are Mr. Glenn pickups that he custom made for me. They're now available. You can buy these, but these were the first set that we talked about, and they're basically vintagey P90s. And quite low output, kind of around 7K, 7.5, something like that. Not even that. I think that one's like 6 and then 6.8 or something like that. So it's become good. Yeah, Paul says, how's the pickup selection on that guitar? Not used to seeing 3 pickup guitars. I know, it's crazy, isn't it? They look massive too with 3 P90s. So I'll set the volume at about 5. The drive pedal's over there. Quiet setting. That's my favorite setting on this guitar. And I love tremolo now. It's funny, for the longest time I hated tremolo. I was like dead against it, often because I only take one guitar to gigs. Let's see if I can get this a little closer. Often I only take one guitar to gigs, and especially fly dates. I fly to a lot of gigs, and not this weekend. I've got that solo gig I just mentioned, but the next weekend afterwards, I'm actually flying down to Christchurch, rehearsing with a symphony orchestra. And then we fly to Nelson, and we're doing Nelson Opera in the Park, which is a pretty big gig. They have about 20,000 people there. It's a big outdoor stage, full orchestra. We're 4 pop singers, and then I think there's opera singers, and we're playing some classical music and stuff too. But I'm going to take in this guitar. This is all I'm going to be able to take. So if you got a tremolo, you break a string, it's like you're screwed. But the good thing is I know the organizer really well, and he's a guitar player, so I'm going to see if I can borrow something from him, even just as Squire Strat or whatever they can just have there just in case, which would be nice. Oh, great. Thanks, Anton. Better. Sounds awesome. Great. Glad to hear it. Yamaha, Paul says, have those bass reduction knobs worked a treat on the Rev Star I had way back when. Yeah, I used to have a Music Man guitar from the 70s, one of those Leo Fender ones. But it was a Stingray 2, I think it was. Stingray 1. Stingray 1. I have a feeling it was. And it had active EQ instead, treble and bass controls. And I remember it being super handy because, if you're on the neck pickup and the amp's a little bit flabby, you can kind of just control it from here and you have to go back to your amp. And then I'd find too that sometimes I want to go to the bridge pickup and just fatten it up. So more so than a tone control, I actually found it more useful. The only pain with that guitar was you had to have a battery, and sometimes the battery would run out, or, you know, yeah, but it was pretty heavy too, that guitar, but it was choice having that. The Fabulous Guitarist says, great channel. Hi, thank you very much. Nice brown sound. Thanks. When I think of like an overdriven tone, one of my favorites is Eddie Van Halen, without a doubt. Even though you might think this guitar, I think not an Eddie Van Halen sound, right? It's sort of that lower gain kind of point of it, but that's one of my benchmarks for like a great guitar tone is Eddie Van Halen, without a doubt. And there's certain people like that. If I think of a great jazz guitar tone, I think of Wes Montgomery, without a doubt. If I think of like a good modern, one of my favorite guitar players in terms of a modern guitar sound is Alan Hines, great Los Angeles guitar player. Everything sounds sweet when Alan plays. It's partly his touch, but yeah. So yeah. Comments here. So Paul says, if you're limited, how do you decide which one guitar to take with you? Good question, right? I was actually tempted to take my Telecaster on this gig, just because the thing with the Tele is it's got that fixed bridge. And with this particular show, we're playing pop songs with these singers, right? And they're doing things like Respect, and they're doing the heaviest tune we're doing actually is Simply the Best, which, you really need a tone like. Delays at a time. So I don't really need like a heavy kind of tone for that one. Otherwise, I'd probably take a humbucker guitar. But that's the heaviest tune. Most of it's like clean kind of strat tones. And I took my PRS DGT last time, but I wasn't really happy because I really wanted to have that. Wish I could reach over there and turn the delays and drive off, but you get the idea. That kind of tone that this does. So yeah, we got a lot of tunes like that. So that's kind of it. It's like what can do the most kind of things. I prefer having a humbucker in this position. That would be even more versatile. But with this guitar, I'd miss having that in between. That point there, which to me is like the best setting on this guitar. So I actually have thought about putting a humbucker in there and having, the two singles in the humbucker, but I'd lose that kind of position 2, which I really like on this guitar. So, but yeah, to me, it's all about like what the gig is. And I do so many different types of gigs, pop gigs, funk gigs, soul gigs. It's session stuff. That's primarily what I'm doing, even though this isn't really a recording session as such. It's session musicians they're booking for it. It's a live concert, so I'll need to be able to do a lot of different things. So this could be it. Will be it, I think. Yeah, but it depends on the gig, really. Hi Nick. Ivan says, hi Nick, greetings from Argentina. Tina. Oh, hello. Greetings from Wellington, New Zealand. I've been following your videos for a few years, and I got to really like your playing. Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. always working on trying to be better. You know what I mean? There's so much to do, and every time I think I've got some things figured out on the guitar, there's more. And but I don't think you're supposed to have it figured out. I think we all think in our minds like there's this end goal. When I reach here, I've made it, or whatever. And I don't know that we ever actually achieved that, do we? I think we're always chasing something new. And that's the thing. If you're not chasing something new, you've kind of given up, right? So that's why, I'm changing it up. I'm going to play this for a little while. And my buddy Warren Mendonza, he great guitar player. If you don't know Black Strat Blues, go and check him out. Monster guitar player, actually. He always says that you should have enough guitars so that you can swap from one to the next and forget what you already own. I like that. It was great. Paul says, are those Stratty funk tones combination of two P90s on there? Yeah, totally. But even the neck pickup. I'm going to turn this drive off. I want to show you the proper tones. Let's see if I knew that was going to happen. My in-ears get caught on the chair like all the time. Let's turn that off. I hate wearing in-ears. But it needs must. Right, so this is clean now. Back to clean tone. Hopefully you're hearing this okay. So that's neck pickup. If I turn down the volume to about 6. Notice it's gotten quieter. I can balance that up, but that fat P90 mid-range thing has changed a bit. This is position those two. Middle. And that's the best position. And then bridge. You can see even the bridge pickup is not really crazy bright. Still pretty fat. Yeah. Thanks, Paul. Says it sounds really nice. Thanks, man. Owen says, I'm so close to getting a PRS again. Yeah, I like Paul Reed Smith guitars. And what I like about these more than anything is the scale length. The 25-inch scale length just works for me. I find when I play Fenders, sometimes they're kind of hard to bend around here. But then when I get up here, it's really nice because the frets are a little bit further apart. And I don't have big hands, but I've got enough that the Gibson scale length feels a bit squashed up there for me. But then I like the Gibson scale length down here a little bit, and I like the fatter tone of the Gibson scale length, right? But then, this being the 25-inch scale is like right in the middle, which to me is the ideal. It doesn't sound like a Strat. I bought this guitar many years ago with the idea being that I was getting sick of it, seeing everyone playing Strats. And I just kind of thought, I want to play something different. What can I play that's not a Strat but kind of does that? And then I realized that the 3 P90s didn't sound like a Strat no matter what you did anyway. So, but it sounds more like a Strat now, which I'm really happy with. Owen says, when playing my Les Paul, I wish it was a bit more Strat. And when playing my Strat, I wish it was a bit more Les Paul. Yeah, crazy, isn't it? That's what I liked about that DGT when I bought that guitar, the SE version, wherever it is, over there. That it sounds like a Les Paul. It's a mahogany body, maple cap, maple neck. Mahogany neck. So it's got all the kind of ingredients that make a Les Paul, 2 humbuckers, all those sort of things. But it feels more like a Strat. And it has that 25-inch scale, so slightly longer than a Les Paul, so not bunched up here, and much lighter than a Les Paul because it's not as it's not as thick, the body. So it's just like a way more comfortable Les Paul to play, but it has sustain for days. Paul says, does that mean you're going to get an 8-string guitar soon? I played one in a music shop once, and I was like, I didn't know what to do. I played the guitar, and I'm like, because you've got that extra string on the bottom, I kept like, your point of reference is you might go, well, that's an F sharp, right? Because it's your bottom string. If you've got another string below that, it just throws the whole thing off. And having another string on the top, I think that's what that one had. It's just like, the hell am I going to do here? How do I play this thing? It's impossible. But I do love it. I do love that kind of stuff. What I do if I do get a session where I have to play like kind of more heavier rock metal stuff, which doesn't happen often, because usually what I'll do is I'll suggest they book someone who really does that music. But sometimes maybe I might be in there and there's in the studio or something, and they're doing 3 or 4 tracks for a TV thing or something. So it might be like a funk thing, then like a, I don't know, hip hop thing, and then maybe a metal thing. I'll just grab the Les Paul and detune it as I need to get those lower notes, and seems to work. Daniel says, I've been looking for a lighter weight guitar around 6 pounds. Which weight do you prefer? Yeah, I don't like heavy guitars anymore. It's one of the reasons I don't really play my Les Paul that much. It's just too heavy for me. It's not a crazy heavy Les Paul. I think it's 8.5, 9 pounds, somewhere around that. It's one of those studio ones that's the weight relieved. It's got holes in the internal in the body. I know that because I sent it through a scanner at the airport one time, and the airport people let me take a photo of the screen. Because New Zealand, right? You'd never get away with that in the US or anywhere else. But they let me take a photo of the screen. Like, they should come behind and have a look, and I could see the insides of the guitar and the wires and everything. It was kind of crazy. But it's just too heavy for me. I find by the end of the gig, my neck is stuffed. I actually dislocated my collarbone right here. The spot here just popped out one night in my sleep when I was 15. And because I rolled over like this and my arm stayed there and just went pop. I don't know what happened, but something like that. And I woke up and it was an agonizing pain. It was unbelievably sore. And it swelled right up. It was like having a tennis ball here for like months, and it went down eventually. But your collarbone is like the connection of your neck, your whole point here, your back connects, and all this stuff. It was like unbelievably painful. So what I have now is actually the muscle in my back here on the other side has to work overtime to make up for the weakness here that came from that. And so funny enough, it's right where a guitar strap sits. So I just can't do heavy guitars anymore, because that muscle, I'll come home and it'll be like a knot. So this guitar here, I think, is about 7 pounds. I think about 7 is about ideal for me. 7.5 at the most. 8 pounds. If it's getting over 8 pounds, I'm not really that keen to play it unless I'm sitting down. So I'll play my Les Paul in the studio. But yeah, generally 6 pounds is getting pretty light. I find light guitars don't tend to balance very well, because that's most of the weight is kind of taken out of the body. So they tend to do this. Like my Ibanez AR520, the hollow body guitar, which is upstairs. That does neck dive a little bit. So you have to put the strap button here to stop it from doing so. But it's just because it's got such a lightweight body. It's about 6 pounds. But yeah, I don't like heavy guitars. That's one of the things I like about the Paul Reed Smith guitars. If you have a look, it's not crazy thick. And so that's why they don't, if it was mahogany and a Les Paul depth, you'd be getting up in weight again. And I don't think it makes that much difference, how thick the body is, as long as it's thick enough. Yeah, maybe it does. I don't know. Paul says, do you still get booked a lot of studio sessions work, or is it mainly live jobs these days? No, lots of studio sessions. I had one just before we went away to the US, which I actually ended up doing as a favor for a friend. I said to him, no, don't pay me. He's got cancer, unfortunately, and I've played on 4 of his albums now. So I was like, man, I'll just play on this track and consider it a gift. But usually I charge for that. But yeah, I've got one coming up, an album. How's that? Is there a truck outside or something? I've got an album coming up, which I'm going to do. So that'll be 14 tracks. So that's quite a bit. I don't normally do that much. Normally, if I play on someone's album, it's usually a couple of tracks here and there. And maybe they'll get different flavors of people. But that's a whole album coming up. What else have I got coming up? Oh, someone was talking about some TV stuff, TV theme stuff. So yeah, still do some. A good week for me is 2 sessions a week. Most weeks it's 1 per week, maybe 1 every fortnight. In terms of sessions, the session scene is not what it used to be. There used to be heaps around. I was doing 2 a week every week without fail when I started, but that's the music industry now. It's different. But yeah, I still get quite a little bit of session work, and it's all from my studio here now, pretty much. People send files, and I put guitar parts on. They tell me what they want. They usually say, "Oh, I want a little bit of this kind of flavor." Usually, I'll get them to Skype in to kind of do it, or if they live locally, I'll get them to come around to the studio here and sit next to me. And I really like feeding off that energy of someone being there. I think that makes a big difference because you can tell if you're going down the wrong path straight away. Whereas, Skype, you can't because someone might be, on their phone or something while they're doing, they're listening, but they're not. But yeah, but I still play live a fair bit, at least 1 gig a week. At Christmas time, it can be 3, 4, 5 gigs a week. I mean, this is all I do though. I don't have a day job or anything. Like this is just music. So if I'm not working, I'm not paying bills. So, so I gotta be doing this stuff, and I do all kinds of gigs. Like it's really, you know, quite interesting. Like I said, I got a solo gig this week, which is something I don't normally do, but I'm really looking forward to that. Orchestra thing next week. Following week after that, a blues gig, and then a pop gig, like a playing with a pop singer. So should be fun. Yeah. Paul says, any advice on learning tunes or practicing them? How do you do that when you're multiple jobs at the same time? Okay, yeah, sure. A lot of my gigs I don't have to learn tunes for. I know that seems crazy, like because I read. So the pop gig in 2 weeks, they've sent through charts. I have them all on my iPad, although I've asked them to print. So they'll. I usually just use my iPad. So if I go back to this, so they're doing "Shake It Off," right? River Deep, Mountain High. So I don't really need to learn them. Like I know these tunes, so I can just turn up and play that. Um, I mean, I always look over them and I always do my homework. The main thing is for me is I want to make sure I've got the right guitar tone. Nothing worse than playing something that's meant to be like classic rock and you've got like a heavy metal tone, or it's meant to be chorus and you've got the wrong sound. So to me, it's like a lot of my homework is make sure I've got the right tones. I go over the charts to make sure see if there's any mistakes or bits missing, because often there's bits missing, like River Deep, Mountain High there. He's just written this for the chorus. And it's like, man, it should be like, do I what I mean? It needs all those kind of things. Like it's a rock guitar song, it needs to kind of push from the guitar. So, and he's not written that in there. So yeah, so I've got to go through and do that. Sometimes I do have to learn songs for gigs. Like people will say, "Oh, here's some of the songs." So for me, I always find that writing a chart helps. And usually my charts are just like scribbles. Do I have any handy? What's that there? Sometimes they might just look like this. That's not particularly one, but there might be just like that, where it's just like the key, any kind of key figures that I need to remember, and then I scan them into my iPad because pieces of paper get lost with me. You know what I mean? I got bits of crap all around the place. Yeah, so I like to have them in my iPad. And then the thing is, like, if someone calls me, people end up playing a lot of the same tunes. You know what I mean? I couldn't tell you how many times I've played the same tunes with different artists. So I just look up the chart and boom, I've got it there. Ready to go. So that seems to work pretty good for me. I definitely prefer to do gigs where I don't have to read, because I think when you're not reading, you can be performing and thinking about the audience out there and stuff like that. But when you're playing with an orchestra, like the gig in 2 weeks, that's going to be, you have to be reading, because you've got to be, everyone's got to be in the same place. And when you've got that many musicians, the conductor needs to be able to say, okay, we're going to pick it up from bar 34. If you're not reading the chart, what does bar 34 even mean to you? Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, so I'd say make charts, even just like cheat sheets. Nashville number system really helps. I do that a lot, where it's 1 chord, 4 chord, 6 chord, whatever, with the idea being they can change key quickly, because singers do that to me all the time. If it's a blues gig, then don't need charts for that or whatever. In that case, like usually what I try and do is like if it's a blues gig, I want to try and get inside the music a little more because I find with blues gigs, a lot of times people think that, oh, it's just a 12 bar in E. Well, no, there's so many like does it go to the 4 chord in the second bar? As in where I went to the 4 chord. Does it like what sort of feel is it? Like, is there any riffs? You know what I mean? Like, not all blues is the same, like a lot of people think. So, hey, Aaron, how you doing? Says, what's the tweed in the background? That one? That's my Bassman. It's a Victoria 45410, which is made in Chicago by Mark Bayer. And he basically makes them as close to the original 59 Fenders as possible. That one's had a bunch of issues with it in recent years, so I don't use it that much. But I took it out the other day, and I love the sound of that amp. It's one of the best clean tone amps ever. Period. And I think the Bassman is the most important guitar amp of all time because without it, there would be no Marshall. Without Marshall, there'd be no rock, right? Because basically, Jim Marshall took a Fender Bassman and rebuilt it using parts he could get in England. Right. Oh, and the other thing he did was instead of having 4 10-inch speakers, he used 4 12-inch speakers and put them in a closed back separate cabinet to reduce the weight. Whereas the Bassman's 410. Homebase, hey, how you doing, man? He says, new to your channel. Oh, welcome. He says, do you humidify that room you're in? Thanks. No, I don't. New Zealand's a funny place. Like it's really humid here generally. So once your guitars settle in, they tend to, the humidity doesn't really change. It's quite humid in general here. So, thanks so much for joining me, Paul. I appreciate you being here. Have a good day, man. Yes, I don't humidify it in here, but I do make sure that I air it. And this room here, it's kind of the corner of our house, so it does get a lot of afternoon sun, but not a lot of morning sun and stuff like that. But most of the time I have the curtains closed up because I'm filming or whatever, and I do try and let air through and stuff like that, but I don't have to here. My trip when I just went to the States for the NAMM show and we went to Alaska, I found the humidity there was, people said to me, oh, you're going to have to tweak your guitar because the humidity is really bad over there. No, it's not. Not compared to New Zealand, compared to where I am. But I had the opposite effect. Everything dried out. And of course, the tally kind of went a bit banana-y and the action was high. And I thought I'd bought the right truss rod key, but I hadn't. So I couldn't adjust the truss rod, which was super annoying. So so I had to just put up with it playing like crap until I got home. But yeah, so the humidity affected it there. And the interesting thing is, as soon as I got home, the humidity kind of went back in the neck as it used to, and it settled down, went back to exactly where it was. Aaron asks, were you sponsored over to NAMM? No, I went on my own accord this time. I don't tend to take sponsorships, to be honest. I get offered this stuff all the time. I was an Ibanez artist for a long time. But even then, when I had an Ibanez endorsement, they didn't really do much of NAMM. Ibanez pretty much were focused on people like George Benson and Pat Metheny and that kind of level of artist that someone else, no, they wouldn't do it. So no, I went on my own accord. We wanted a holiday anyway, so I thought, well, let's tie it in with NAMM and we'll head up to Alaska and go and see our good friends, and it was choice. So yeah, no, it was on me that time. But I have gone and played at booths before. I played at Rob Kelly's briefly, and I played at Vertex, Mason Marangella's. He goes by the Rig Doctor or something like that. So I played at Mason's booth. At Mason's, I did. He had a Dumble, so I got to try a real Dumble there, which was pretty cool. He also had a 60s 335, and so when I was with Ibanez at the time, so I had to apply in writing to use the Gibson. I know, funny, eh? But the whole thing was Mason wanted to do a thing where he was showing that the guitar that Larry Carlton used plus the amp, we ended up using a deluxe, plus his pedal would get you the sound of like Kid Charlemagne. So that's what we did. So it was cool. But Mason wasn't there this year, and neither was Rob Keeley, so I didn't do anything at either of those booths. So I thought I'm just not going to worry about playing this time, and I just wanted to go and hang out and check out stuff. And because the thing is, too, when you're playing at booths, depending on how long you're playing, but often you're tied to that spot, and there might be something cool happening around the corner, but you can't go. You've got to be there, right? Which can have its benefits too. But yeah, this time around, I just wanted to go and kind of hang out, and so. But if I go back next year, which I'm hoping to, well, we'll see how crazy expensive flights and all that stuff are by then. If I go back next year, then I'll be aiming to play, and I'll kind of work that out. Aaron says, I've got a few of Mason's pedals. I really like his Ultraphonics pedal. Yeah, I've heard good things about the Ultraphonics. I haven't played one myself. Marco says, I met Jim Marshall. Wow. It's a teen at a guitar conference in London. Got a photo taken with him, but no idea where it is these days. Oh, wow. That would have been cool. I reckon he would have been an interesting character. No, I didn't get a chance to jam with Kirk. It's funny. Some people think the NAMM show, you can just go and kind of take over some booths and go and play. That totally goes against how I am as a Kiwi. And some people do that. Like the Collings booth is really popular. There's a lot of people I know who go and hang around there, with looking for an opportunity to play in front of people on those guitars. So Kurt and I could have done. I've known Kurt for a number of years now. He's a real sweet guy. He's as warm as what he appears in all those videos, and his playing's killer, and he's just a sweetheart, So we could have. I hung out quite a bit with Jens Larsen. He was probably the person I saw the most at the NAMM show. So we, good probably couple of hours over the whole show, which was great. Yeah, so Jens, I mean, there might have been a chance to play with Jens, but yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting thing too. Like when you go and try out guitars at these booths, you see people there who are just there to play, and I'm like, that's dumb to me. Like I saw this kid playing, and he was playing at a pedal booth, right? And he turned all the pedals off, so he was literally using guitar into amp with the pedals all off at a pedal booth. So I'm like, well, you're clearly not here to try pedals, are you? Right? If you were there for the pedal, you would be turning the pedal on, but he wasn't. He was just there trying to perform to say, hey, look at me. And there's a lot of that at the NAMM show, which again goes against my kind of ways of being a Kiwi, So when I'm trying guitars, like I'm not sitting there trying to perform. I don't really even play songs. Like sometimes I'll just play something. Sometimes I'll just do that and kind of grab the guitar here and feel, is it resonating? And I kind of know what I want to know. I'm not there to show off, so to speak, but some people are. Aaron says, stream without a beer feels very odd. Yeah, I did. It's 10 a.m. in the morning. It's a little bit early for day drinking for me. So no, I won't be drinking this morning. Maybe coffee. I should have actually made a coffee, but there you go. No, morning, I'm not, yeah. Maybe it's after 12 o'clock somewhere in the world. Any questions? Anything you want to know about guitar? One thing with this guitar is it's pretty noisy. I don't know if you can hear that, but if I go like that. So I'm getting used to kind of rolling the volume quick. Owen says, I can still hear the drum section of NAMM 2029 ringing in my head. Yeah, it's funny. I went to the Fearless Flyers and saw their gig, and the guy sitting behind me said, oh, is anyone sitting at that table? And I said, no, go for it, man. Let's grab it, because we were in the VIP area. I had comp tickets from Mark Lettieri, got me comp. So that was nice. And this guy had comp tickets too, but turns out he was the marketing manager for or one of the marketing people. I don't know if he's manager, but I think that's what he said, for Tama drums in Europe. And he said, oh, have you come by the Tama booth? And I was like, nah. This is the last thing I want to do, right? I don't want to be around someone going bang, 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 bang. But it turns out Tama weren't really doing performances at their stuff. They were connected to the Ibanez booth, which makes sense. They're sort of all part of the same company. So there was Ibanez, and then like literally on the back end of it was Tama along there. So they just had the drums on display, which was great because sometimes when you go near the drum area, it's just noise. You have someone there sitting there trying out a snare drum, going smack as hard as they can, and ugh, and then when you have like 20 people doing that, you start going, ah. So the two areas I try to stay away from at NAMM, I try and stay away from the drum area, and I try and stay away from the trumpet/saxophone area. Because trumpet players are all trying to play as high as they can to show who's the man. They're trying to hit those big high notes. And when you get a heap of people doing that, it just becomes noise. And it wears you out. Like I find that this time around, after about an hour or two, I felt beat up. Like I felt really tired. So I was like, I just had to go out and get a coffee and just kind of escape the noise. It's this constant noise there. It's really hard. Um, yeah, no. What's not really too bad for tinnitus, Marco, because it's not loud volume. It's just, well, I mean, it is if you go near the drummers, but I'm often not going even that close to them. But they're there, but and it's a big hall, but you're hearing all that noise kind of compounding. So it's not volume; it's just annoying. Um, Aaron says he has a burning question for me. Go for it, man. Anything you want to know? So Aaron says, how do you feel about the word talent? When people say you're so talented, I actually dislike it. I feel like saying someone is talented dilutes the fact that the person's put in thousands of hours. I totally agree, man. I feel the same way. I've had people say that to me before and about others. I say, is this person so talented? As if you just pick it up and do it. And it's totally not the case. I actually think talent doesn't mean shit, to be honest, if I'm really, really truthful. Like I know talented people all around the world who don't necessarily have careers in music or don't really do anything. Just because you've got natural ability is what I would talk of as talent. Um, thinking of that, I can think of like a half dozen singers in this town alone. And Wellington's a pretty small city, about 500,000 people, and there's a lot of very talented people in New Zealand, but they're kind of not going anywhere or doing anything because they're kind of just doing day jobs, doing their whatever, not really putting themselves out there, not creating music. They'll do a gig if it comes up, and these people are insanely talented, some of them. And so it's hard work, right? That's the thing that gets you somewhere. But I also, by the same token, I quite like that people have this impression that that's how music is, that it's just something you do and that it's our passion. I don't really want people to understand too much how much hard work goes into it, right? I like them to have this mystique about it. Do you know what I mean? That they're kind of amazed that someone does something in a way. So that's kind of cool too. But yeah, I hate the word talented and what it kind of represents. I would never use that word. Yeah, I don't think I ever have. What was your favorite performance? Home bases. What was your favorite performance or gear, etc. at NAMM? I'd say I really like the Collings guitars. I thought the couple of acoustic guitars were particularly nice. Although they sounded brand new and they need to be broken in. I find with acoustic guitars, they don't sound their best until they've really been played and the kind of everything's worked together and they've opened up. But probably the best thing was I went to the Two Rock booth and I tried a Two Rocks custom reverb signature. And that is a damn sweet amp. Boy, it sounded good. I really, really want one of those. I went to the Marshall booth. That was kind of cool. Like, it was just nice to see Marshall back and doing stuff and like actually forward thinking. They've putting out their classic amps, but with all the mods that people do on them. So it's like clear they're listening to people what they want. Because sometimes people just want to see Marshall on it. You know what I mean? So that was kind of cool. Probably favorite performance was seeing the Fearless Flyers at the Regent in downtown LA. Like I said, my friend Mark got me some comp tickets. I went and saw them. They had a killer opening act, band called the Psychedelics, which were like a Prince type band. Really, really great, man. So that gig in general was just a good gig, and the Flyers are cool. I think they're great. I think those guys tight band. Yeah, I only know Mark. I've never met Corey Wong or Joe Dart. I met Nate Smith briefly at the Blue Whale when he was playing there with Adam Rogers. And he seems like a cool guy. He's someone I'd actually like to play some gigs with or do a recording with Nate Smith, because for me, he's probably the ultimate kind of drummer for how I play. Because Nate Smith is funky as heck, right? And super solid, great groove, but he can swing too. Like, he can really play jazz stuff, and he's super versatile, which is what I need out of a drummer. So he'd be probably the ideal drummer for me. So SM Superstrat says, sometimes I have player's guilt. Yeah, I think everyone does. I think I'm trying to accompany like a keyboard player with little fills in between chords. Then I feel, oh no, did I overplay? Do you ever feel like that? I feel like that all the time. I think anyone who's honest with themselves as a guitar player feels like they probably overplay and need to, kind of strip it back. I'm using one of them, but I've got two of these DJI Osmos. These are like GoPros, but way better. If you're a musician, you should get something like this. I much prefer this over using my cell phone. I don't want to put my cell phone in the audience too risky, especially when it's unlocked and it's open recording. Yeah. This I don't care. If someone were to steal it, well, it would suck, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. They can't access my bank account or whatever. But I just take this and I film every gig now, even if I don't do anything with it. The idea being that I really want to have the access to the video afterwards, so I can watch it back and see what did I do well, what do I need to improve on, what was my sound like, because I know these cameras now. I've done so many recordings of gigs that just trying to get better. It's really what I'm trying to do. So and yeah, one of the things I look at a lot is how am I playing enough notes or not enough, and am I helping the music or getting in the way of it? Yeah. Owen says, totally agree. Aaron K. I spent years becoming talented. It's all in the practice. Yeah, totally. Marco says, I try not to take it the wrong way. I guess it's just easier for people to say talented than say, wow, you clearly put in hours of practice. Yeah, that could be true too. Maybe that's what they mean by it. I'm not sure. I'm just glad people think I'm any good. Yeah, I agree, Marco. That's how I feel about it too. If people like it, then that's the main thing, right? And if they don't like it, that's totally cool too. Like, I'm never precious about stuff like that with music, because I realize it's taste now too. And in the same way that if someone loves what I do, if someone hates it, I don't take either really on board. I don't think it's healthy too as a musician, because you start thinking that, your shit doesn't stink or something like that, for lack of a better way of putting it. But I think that, I know where my goals are with music and where I want to be in doing things. And that, that's really my focus and where I'm looking. And that if I got caught up in people's negative energy with stuff, you wouldn't do anything. And by the same token, if I got caught up in people's positive stuff, well, it's lovely to hear and I appreciate it from everyone. I'm still focused on where, like I do gigs where I think I absolutely sucked. And then someone comes up to me and says, it's the best gig they ever saw. And, that's amazing. I mean, it's great that they felt that way, but I'm still focused on the reasons I thought it sucked and what I need to do to get better at it. Because, they're seeing an overall picture, whereas I'm looking at my own development. But I hope that makes sense. Home Base says, yeah, I bought an OM1 from Collings and I love it. I live in Texas, so it's a local builder to me. Yeah, they really do make great stuff, Collings. There was a really nice 335 type guitar they had there that was beautiful. That was probably the best of the electrics. And then, of course, the high-end acoustic they had there, which was about 17,000 US, was pretty stunning. Brazilian rosewood, was stunning. Yeah, they do make great stuff. Some Super Strat says, if I could gather the funds for a 2-rock, that would be real. Yeah, man, they're crazy expensive, aren't they? They're really good, though. I think it's worth it. I mean, the Victorias, those things are crazy expensive too. I got that second hand off someone years and years ago, but I'd hate to think what they are now. You'd probably be looking 10 grand to get one in New Zealand, which is probably about the same as a 2-rock. Or Andy Fuchs makes great amps too. I really like his. Oh, you've played with Mark a few times. Oh, nice. So in Texas, are you in Fort Worth then? Because I think Mark's in Fort Worth. Although I'm sure he plays all over Texas. He's a cool guy. I like Mark a lot. He's someone who's always given me the time of day, and he slept on my couch when he came out here last time, because he comes out to fit New Zealand a fair bit with Snarky Puppy. And last time he was here, I flew him down from Auckland because they were only playing in Auckland, and got him to come and do a workshop at my university where I was teaching. I used to teach at the New Zealand School of Music. I was there for about 10 years. So one of my things I did was got Mark to come and do a workshop for my students, and I paid for it out of my pocket. And there were people at the university who were like, why are you doing that? And I was like, well, for one, I wanted to bring Mark down, and the students have got to hear what he's got to say. And if that costs me money, well, it's an investment. That's how I saw it. So, yeah. But yeah, it's funny. I've never played with Mark. Last time he was here, we were looking at pulling in a little club gig to just do a 2-guitar thing, just a little place locally here. And I wasn't going to advertise it because the whole conflict with Snarky Puppy and they're selling tickets and all that. Just going to do a gig and with my band, and then Mark magically appears, as was planned all along. But it didn't work out for a bunch of reasons. Yeah. His flights were delayed, and there was fog, and he couldn't get out. That's why he slept on my couch, because he was stuck. But yeah, he's a great guy. Fearless Flyers are good fun. Yeah, Wolfpack a little underrated in my opinion. Ultra funky. Yeah, I mean, I like them both. I think they're great. Yes, I'm in Fort Worth. Recently, I've just been jamming along to a lot of James Brown. That's it, man. That's the good shit, right? That's James Brown is where it's at. We were listening to some James Brown last night. I heard one of him at Jazz Festival, actually. One of the more recent gigs he did, and yeah, it was killer. Yeah, and it's guitar parts like that are awesome. Even though that's horns and guitar, but yeah, it's cool. I love it. Will you sign my Les Paul next time you're in Brisbane? Man, it'll be worth less when I sign it. You don't want me to graffiti your guitar, do you? I got to get over to Brisbane, actually. I had a meeting at the NAMM show. I ended up hanging at a bar. Didn't realize it was a meeting, but it kind of ended up being one with a bunch of the guys who import Sir guitars into Australia, and they're looking to bring them into New Zealand. And we were discussing certain things, and they were asking if I'd play a Sir at any point. But they're based in Brisbane, so maybe someday I need to get over there. Nate Smith makes me want to get into that Paul Jackson Jr. rhythmic stuff. Me too, man. When I hear that guy play, I just want to tap my foot. All right, you just can't help it. We were my neighbor was over last night, and we watching some stuff on YouTube, and I put on the Buena Vista Social Club, playing Afro-Cuban stuff, and it was the same thing. As soon as I hear that music like that, anything kind of rhythmic like that, I can tap my foot. It's like music. You know what I mean? It's like that's why we do it. Hopefully you're hearing everything okay. Yeah, so you have the two silent things on this guitar too, which I like. Speaking of new local guitars, just this week, about an Atkin 000, great luthiers and a lovely instrument. No more gas for a while. It's one of the things, isn't it? Right, gas. I have the bridge floating. This guitar seems to hold tuning really well. The other day I was trying to work on something where I was going. I mean, it's non-locking. These are replacement tuners. They're Spurzels, which were put on some years ago. Don't get me started on that. Someone told me that the tuners were affecting the tuning of the guitar. So they were swapped from the locking ones to these, and parts were lost, so I can't even put them back. But these are apparently very desirable. They seem to work pretty good. But it seems to hold really well. But I never really do that kind of stuff on them. It's about what I do with a tremolo. So I have it floating, which is a risk because, if I break a string and I've only got one guitar, which is usually the case, I'm going to try these strings out too. I met up with these guys. They're nice guys, actually. I like the String Joy guys. They're awesome. So I'm going to give these a try. I bought these. I haven't used them yet. I'm cheap, and so the thing is, I want, until these strings wear out, I've been a Alexa guy for a long time using their strings. But I've been looking for other options, and these are coated. I'll only ever use coated strings now. I mean, I totally get that some people don't like coated strings. The thing I find with coated strings is they just last, right? These have been on here for months and months. I can't remember how long they've been on here. You know what I mean? And they still feel like they're new and sound decent. I've got better things to do than change strings, right? I'd rather just play. Thanks, Marco. Says, how do you find it next to the DGT? They're different guitars, completely different. This one has had the neck stripped. As you can see there, it's been sanded off. I actually want to get it refinished. I prefer lacquer. I don't like raw neck. I find that I prefer lacquer finish, like something about getting it resprayed or an oil finish or something, so it's kind of a finished neck. So they feel completely different. The other one's got a lacquer finish. The DGT is more like a Les Paul. This is more like a Strat. Now, neither of them are really like either of those guitars. Like the DGT sounds like a Les Paul, feels like a Strat. This feels like a Strat-ish kind of, but sounds like a fatter Strat. That's the idea of it. And the thing for me, because I do a lot of session work for stuff and people, I need to have different instruments. So that's why you can probably see all those guitars back there, and there's a bunch around there, and there's a whole wardrobe full of stuff over there. And I don't keep anything that I don't use. Well, everything here gets used like all the time. Even that nasty Squire Strat on the wall there that you can probably see, that has a certain thing. Like if I want position 2 like that, this one. Can do it with this guitar, but that Squire just does that thing, right? So I use that for it. What doesn't get used? My 12 string hardly gets used. It doesn't even have a neck pickup at the moment. I've got to put the pickup back in. I don't really play 12 strings, I'm not really much of that, but there are times when I'm on a recording that it's just the right sound. I think the last time I used it for a session, though, was about 3 years ago. For a Christmas album, actually, we did with the singer who I went and spent time with in Alaska. And she did a Christmas album, and her husband is an actor, but he also sings. So he did this song that was kind of like a country song. So I did some kind of drop D tuning stuff, and of course, all these things with the 12 string doubling, those sort of lines was just perfect. Yeah, the P90s do get a good in-between sound. Which is why I want to take this guitar, because that's the sound that I'll use a lot on this gig in a couple of weeks, the orchestra thing. Thoughts on early Tara Power? I love Tara Power. I think they're great. If you're not familiar with the Oakland Stroke parts 1 and 2, I'm sure you'll love it. One of the funkiest things I've ever heard. Oh yeah, totally. Those guys are amazing. I've met Tom Politzer, the saxophone player, a couple of times. He's a real nice guy. He remembered coming out to New Zealand, and because he actually came up to me. I went to a gig, and it was Tommy Igoe's big band playing in San Francisco, and I knew a couple of the guys in the band, and I was just kind of hanging out the back. I actually wanted to talk with Tommy because someone had said to have a chat with him, see if he'd come out here and do some gigs, and yeah, he was kind of ignoring me the whole time. He's kind of a bit of a jive guy, though, from what I understand. But Tom Politzer heard me talking to someone and come over and goes, "Hey, you're a Kiwi." I said, "Yeah, I am." And he said, "Oh, do you know Roger Fox?" And he goes, "Well, okay." And I said, "Yeah, of course, played a bunch with Roger." And he said Roger had bought Tara Power out to do something at Church Road Vineyard here, and they did some gigs, and he remembered coming out, and so he gave me his card. Super nice guy. So he was great. I like Tom Politzer. So yeah, that was kind of my connection to Tower of Power. And then my friend Dwayne Pate actually did a bunch of gigs with them when the bass player and drummer got hit by a train. And if any of you have been to Yoshi's in Auckland, we played out there, and the train is kind of crazy. Like the train tracks come right through the middle of the road and across the footpath and stuff, like right through the middle of town. And if you weren't paying attention, which I don't think they were, and they got hit by the train and survived it. Both him and Garibaldi, I think. But yeah, he was out of action for a while, the bass player. I forget his name now. But Dwayne Pate did a bunch of gigs with them, and they really liked having him, so that was cool. So that's another connection to Tara Power. But yeah, I think they're great. Do you have any tips for improv over major tracks where it feels like you have to constantly resolve to the root note? Yeah, I do. Okay, so if you're in a major key like A, let's use A as an example, just because I've got open A. The temptation is to often finish something, go. Rocco was the original guy. Rocco's not been doing Tara Power for a while. He's not been very well. I think he passed away last year. So, but there's been a guy doing it for a couple of years now. I forget his name. Is it John somebody? Very good. Rocco's the OG though. I mean, those 16th note things he does with just pocket, So we're in a major key, right? Temptation is to do a phrase and go, right, and kind of finish on a root note with your phrase, because it's kind of going to sound right. Here's an exercise you can do if you're finding that's happening a lot. Try playing something and say it's a major blues, just as an example. So A major, D major, E, A. Just simple changes like that. Blues, right? What we're going to do is we're going to play on the A chord. You're not allowed to play A notes. Let's make that the rule. So you can play anything you want, but no A. You want to play the A, but you got to go. Right, and then when we go to the D chord, you're not allowed to play. You can play A now, but no D notes. Right, so which major pentatonic would be fine because there is no D note, right? But say you were to change scales on that chord, you could do that, right? And then on the E chord, no E. And what will happen is you'll start to see those. It's really difficult to do this, by the way. When you first start doing it, you'll really struggle. But what happens is you start to see the root notes and you try and find ways to avoid it, right? And what will happen is you'll start to develop your phrasing so that you can avoid, so that you start to see the other notes in the scale as finishing points. And then you start hearing that, right? And then when you reinsert the root note into your scales when you're improvising, what will happen is it'll become a natural thing, and it'll sound like, oh, that's meant to be there, and you'll be able to avoid it as a cliche thing. I hope that makes sense, but that's a really good exercise to do. Now, that was just 1-4-5. As chord progressions get more complex, that can be tricky, right? Really tricky, but it's a good one to do. So you're playing, you're improvising, but you're not hitting the root note of the particular chord at that particular moment. Hope that helps. Give it a go. Aaron says, also, FYI, I've sold you to so hard to my guitar/music friends. Oh, awesome. Starting to think you're the village mistress. Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate the support, eh? It's awesome. I mean, I appreciate everyone here who's doing this, who's part of what I'm doing here. So, because to be honest, I don't know what I'm doing with YouTube at all. I really don't. I mean, to me, I just jump. I do this stuff because it's fun. It's interesting. I was hanging out with Jens Lassen, my friend, when I was in NAMM. We hung out quite a bit, and we were chatting about YouTube and stuff because he's got a big YouTube channel. If you guys don't know Jens Lassen, you should go and check him out. He's a really great jazz guitar player from the Netherlands, and he's really built up an audience. Everywhere we would go, someone would come out and go, "Oh, Jens, I watch your videos on YouTube," and people would come up to him and say, "Oh, I feel like I know you," to him all the time because he's got a big popular channel. But he was amazed at certain things. Like I said, I haven't set up Patreon. And he was like, what? Why not? I was like, I don't know. It seems like one more thing to do. And he's like, no, go and do it now. Like set it up and, start building that up. And there were certain things that we were talking about. And I said, I really don't know what I'm doing with any of this. I just do videos because I like it and because hopefully you all get something out of it. And we'll see where this goes. It's kind of what it's been. So the daily videos was really just about, because I wanted to do it. And then this year I've decided, well, I just can't do it. It was getting too crazy. And I realized once I stopped doing it when we went overseas on holiday, just how wiped out I was. Like I was spent. So I was like, okay, it's time to sort of reevaluate and look at it and go. And also too, I want to do higher quality videos. I was looking at the quality of some of those videos and thinking, I can do a better job. Oh, thank you, Marco. That'd be appreciated. So, and what I was thinking of is I will set up Patreon. That's one of my things I want to do this week. Get that up and running. I get a lot of times people ask me about transcriptions for these videos that I do. The notations and stuff, and I just don't have time. I really don't. But I thought, hey, that could be something that I could offer on Patreon, and because people are essentially paying you to do it. Well, that gives me the time to do it, and I think that would be really, really useful. Useful thing to have in relation to these lessons, and just take it further and also do some exclusive stuff for Patreon so that it's worth it to people's time. The thing is, I don't want to take from people. That's not me at all. I want to offer something for your contribution. So if you contribute to it, then there'll be exclusive stuff there. That'd be cool. So Aaron says, I ran a very popular social media business and creative burnout is real. Yeah. Once you start making money, it feels like a business. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I've seen it a lot. And, the daily videos thing was an idea I had. And I was looking at it going, why can't I do this? There's no reason why not, because this is all I do is music. But there were definitely days where I'd start feeling a bit sick or whatever. And when you got those days where you're feeling unwell and you still feel like you have to put a video out, or you're exhausted from a gig the night before, you're flowing in and you got back late and you got no sleep or whatever, and you wake up and then you got to try and look enthusiastic in a video. And I just thought, and the thing is, like, I want to put out higher quality content. I think it's about higher quality, not putting out lots. Now, YouTube, of course, when that 2 weeks I was away, really punished my channel. My views dropped right down. They didn't push stuff to people. And I was like, okay, I kind of knew that was going to happen. Gigs and Taz. Hello, Nick. Hello, how are you? I kind of knew that was going to happen, but it's all good. Whatever. I don't do this stuff for views. I do it because people like it, right? I don't do it for numbers of what I should say. If people are watching, I'm good. That's the main thing. Anyway, I'm going to have to go, people. It's been a little over an hour. I have to go and quote for another gig. I've had someone hounding me about that. A lot of my day is doing admin stuff like that, emails. So this is a quote for a gig in July, but he needs it by today. It's all good. It'll be a good paid corporate gig. They want a jazz duo, something I don't do very often. They don't want vocals. So I was like, sweet, you can just play instrumental jazz tunes. So I was thinking double bass and guitar, and that'll be fun. It's a corporate function. So I don't do many of them. So but I got to put a quote in now. So we'll see. Sure thing, Aaron, go for it. Yeah, I hate admin. I'd love to have someone. It's interesting. Jens was telling me. Um, I mentioned to him. I said, "Man, I love the way your editing styles changed, and you got all these like text things in there and little captions that come up. It's really interesting. Keeps people engaged." And he says, "Oh, I don't do that. My editor does it." I go, "What do you mean, editor?" I go, "Have you got someone who edits your videos?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I've got two editors." So he films and then he sends them off to someone and they put all the stuff together and that's what comes out. And I was like, oh, that just sounds amazing. Now, my channel's not even remotely at that kind of level, but he's obviously making enough money out of doing this stuff to have people employ people to edit. For me, this is a one man thing. It's just me doing my thing when I get time. So yeah, anyway, folks, I'm gonna have to go. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you all. And I'm thinking actually, I'm thinking about the schedule, right? I'm thinking a video on Saturday and a video midweek, and I'm actually thinking Wednesday would make more sense than Tuesday. I know I originally said Tuesday, but Wednesday's the middle of the week. It splits it up between then and the Saturday video. So I'm thinking Wednesday and Saturday, and then live streams on Sundays probably makes the most sense. Although maybe this Monday morning time might work better. What do you think? Let me know in the comments or in the chat. If you think this time works better. I think it kind of does. I'm not much of a morning person. As you can probably tell, I probably look like death right now. But actually, Monday morning could work actually quite well because that's Sunday for a lot of other people. Most of my audience is in the US or Europe, UK particularly. So, yeah. Hey, thanks so much for joining me, folks. I'll see you very soon. Cheers.